God's blessings to everyone. This is a DGHradio.com news and information news update for the United States Virgin Islands, and I'm reporter DKS reporting the news for September 24th, 2025, covering the latest developments from across the United States Virgin Islands. We begin with the well-being of our elders. Lawmakers spent the weekend focused on a growing crisis. More confirmed cases of mistreatment of older residents while safe placements are running out. Human Services officials told senators that one home currently has only 2 available beds, limited to women, and the other is nearing full capacity. Frontline teams say when a senior faces immediate danger, options can shrink to leaning on relatives, friends, or faith groups for temporary refuge. Renovations are planned to expand space to roughly 40 residents at one facility and 60 at another, but waitlists and hospital boarders are expected to consume many of those slots as soon as doors open. Adult Protective Services stress that without secure housing, it becomes harder to intervene swiftly. Lawmakers floated short-term fixes, contracting with licensed private homes, expanding adult daycare, and funding emergency respite for exhausted caregivers, while agencies were ordered to return in 90 days with an action plan that adds beds now, accelerates repairs, and prioritizes at-risk elders for housing assistance. It raises essential questions. What oversight tool would give families confidence that a complaint triggers action within set deadlines? Is it time to require minimum caregiver-to-client ratios when public dollars are involved? And should the territory consider out-of-island placements for the most vulnerable if that is what safety requires? Why it matters. An aging population and strained facilities mean cases can fall through the cracks. Decisions made now will shape whether at-risk seniors can live safely with dignity here at home. Alongside the placement crunch, senators advanced Bill 36-099, aimed at prevention and accountability. The measure would require Human Services to refer high-risk findings to justice for swift legal action, create a multidisciplinary team to coordinate responses, and establish a public registry barring individuals with substantiated abuse records from jobs serving vulnerable adults. Justice officials praised the hiring safeguards. Human Services endorsed the goals but flagged funding gaps, urging grant strategies and dedicated staff for data and due process protections. Employers would be required to check the list before hiring, with penalties for non-compliance and an appeals path to protect rights. The debate now centers on balance. How should we weigh rehabilitation against permanent work bans in sensitive settings, and what privacy guardrails will prevent misuse? Supporters argue the registry will deter repeat harm. Critics caution that it must be properly staffed and funded to work as intended. Turning to infrastructure and daily life, last week's tropical downpours, unrelated to distant tropical storm Gabrielle, flooded roads and triggered island-wide power problems. Schools and government offices shut across the territory on Thursday, and public schools on St. Croix remained closed into Friday to assess damage and restore service, while many on St. Thomas and St. John reopened with cleanup still ongoing. The Water and Power Authority's board convened amid another blackout to grill leadership on reliability. The utility chief attributed cascading failures to an aging fleet and multiple units down for repairs, promising accelerated maintenance, better parts inventories, and near-term stabilization on St. Thomas and St. John. Ratepayers and lawmakers are pressing for a credible schedule, public dashboards showing feeder status and capacity, and accountability when outages damage appliances or disrupt commerce. Why it matters. Reliable power underpins safety, healthcare, and the economy. The territory needs a transparent, enforceable plan to restore confidence in the grid. On the recovery front, our delegate to Congress pointed to billions in federal funds still available from the 2017 disasters, dollars that can harden schools, hospitals, and utilities if used with resilience in mind. Hospital leaders say marquee rebuilds. The Governor Juan F. Luis Hospital on St. Croix, the Roy Lester Schneider Medical Center on St. Thomas, the Charlotte Kimmelman Cancer Institute, and the Myra Keating Smith Community Health Center have moved into design. That phase locks in scope and costs and must align with realistic staffing so new facilities can be safely operated the day they open. Community sessions are planned as schematic designs finalize. The big questions remain: which services must be prioritized on island to cut medical travel without overextending budgets? How do we recruit and retain the clinicians needed to staff new buildings? And should design reviews include walkthroughs and mock-ups to catch workflow issues early? Smart choices now will shape care for decades. Preparedness is not just about hurricanes. The Territorial Emergency Management Agency has launched tsunami evacuation drills across the islands. A small group on St. John practiced hiking to elevations above 80 feet, with St. Thomas drills scheduled next and St. Croix in early October. Trainers are emphasizing the link between earthquakes and tsunamis, inclusive evacuation for residents with mobility challenges, and making safe zones second nature. This is about building a culture of readiness for low-frequency, high-impact events. Could technology, like simple offline-capable apps, help guide evacuees in real time? And how can schools weave hands-on drills into the curriculum so readiness begins young? Our environment is both a shield and a livelihood. Federal marine scientists completed survey dives off St. Croix to update data on coral cover, bioerosion, and reef growth. The team installed instruments and ran standardized transects to track heat stress and disease, with results guiding where to focus restoration and runoff controls. Healthy reefs blunt storm surge, sustain fisheries, and draw visitors. The findings will steer grants toward the highest value sites. Should reef health scores shape building permits near sensitive shorelines? What incentives might speed private investment in drainage and sediment control on steep lots? At stake is not just biodiversity, but the safety and economy of coastal communities. On St. Thomas, the Magens Bay Authority Board confronted everyday management pressures. A new law lifts base pay for full-time staff to $35,000 starting next month, tightening budgets and postponing merit raises until reviews are complete. Revenues dipped with seasonal slowdowns and seaweed closures, though crews earned praise for quick, eco-friendly cleanups. New taxi and water activity vendors were approved through competitive bids. Bathroom and entrance renovations continue. The board also voted to relocate colorful wooden sculptures created from hurricane debris as a symbol of recovery, so they no longer obstruct traffic, notifying donors and allowing a month before the move. The broader conversation: how do wage mandates affect small public entities? What smart, non-intrusive approaches can reduce sargassum impacts without harming ecosystems? And how should we steward public art born from disaster as needs evolve? Economic diversification continues on the water and online. Senators approved a 20-year coastal permit for a floating restaurant to expand operations to St. Thomas, including moorings for 10 boats and a 53 by 16-foot structure with waste handling protections. Meanwhile, in Estate Kings Quarter on St. Thomas, Liberty 6 is advancing permits to construct a fiber network promising high-speed service to every home and business in the area. Enhanced connectivity means better access to online learning, telehealth, and remote work, and a stronger base for entrepreneurs. As unique attractions and digital backbones grow, the questions are clear. What environmental safeguards are non-negotiable for water-based businesses in fragile bays? How do we ensure affordable access so every household can benefit from new fiber lines? And how can these upgrades draw new, resilient industries to our shores? On community development, a St. Croix congregation laid out a phased plan to transform the former Good Hope School into a multi-use resource center, a campus for youth enrichment, job readiness, counseling, and later classrooms, rehearsal space, and small business incubators. Organizers are stabilizing buildings, recruiting volunteers, and pursuing grants with a pledge to publish outcomes like certifications and job placements. Residents are hopeful and watchful. Can former school sites guarantee free community hours and rooms? Which metrics, beyond attendance, best show a hub is strengthening family stability? And how can faith leadership partner with secular agencies to serve all neighbors? Public safety headlines were difficult this weekend. On St. Croix, police arrested a man on suspicion of attempted murder after a woman was found unconscious at an abandoned gym. A clothing iron recovered at the scene as evidence. Advocates note that derelict buildings can invite danger and delay rescue. They are urging required security for long vacant sites and neighborhood fixes, lighting, cameras, coordinated cleanups that deter harm without over-policing. Separately, a wanted assault suspect was taken into custody in another case, and a high-profile December 2021 jewelry store robbery and murder case heads to trial with jury selection set to begin Monday. As communities seek healing, St. Croix will host a candlelight vigil on Thursday, September 25th for the National Day of Remembrance for Murder Victims, pairing tribute with on-site counseling, legal information, and prevention ideas. The Bureau of Corrections is also under renewed scrutiny over vacancies, burnout, and compliance obligations. Lawmakers want quarterly hiring and training updates, clearer timelines to meet federal benchmarks, and faster delivery of equipment to frontline units. Across these stories, the through line is care and accountability. What single policy would most comfort families during long investigations? Should victim advocate staffing expand to accompany survivors to every court date? And can a shared training academy for police, corrections, and probation stabilize the talent pipeline? In arts and culture, beloved St. Croix performer Linda Nikki Brooks is recovering after a serious crash near Kings Hill on Thursday afternoon. Friends, fans, and fellow musicians flooded social channels with support as investigators review roadway conditions and witness statements. The moment is a reminder. Artists are pillars of community life at festivals, schools, and family milestones, and many ask how best to help during long recoveries. Should cultural agencies seed emergency assistance funds for performers injured in accidents? Can we pilot slow zones with traffic calming near post offices, clinics, and schools to make busy corridors safer for everyone? Finally, a quick heads up on hazards as a new week begins. Forecasters expect dangerous heat and the usual pop-up, lightning-heavy afternoon downpours with a distant system swell, keeping rip current risks up along north and east-facing beaches, especially on St. Croix. Plan outdoor work for cooler hours, never drive through moving water, and swim with caution around inlets and jetties. Preparation is predictable protection. These and other issues are of great concern within the islands. What do you think are some good solutions? Let us know your thoughts by texting your comments to 1-315-898-1449. You can also join our WhatsApp group and get the news, weather, and other insightful information delivered right to your smartphone. To join, text JOIN to 1-315-898-1449. Please include your name in the text message. You will receive a call to verify your request. I'm your reporter, DKS, signing off for DGHradio.com. Remember DKS and DGH, together we dream kindly, speak deeply, and give hope, because on DGHradio.com, the news never sleeps. Goodbye for now. Ciao.